You are watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. info@netsoftakademy.com. www.netsoftakademy.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome to AZ-500 Beginner Series. If you're new to Azure Security and want a clear, simple way to understand the basics, you're in the right place. In this first module, we will get a high-level overview of the AZ-500 certification and a walk through some essential identity and security concepts that you will build on throughout the course. So let's get started. AZ-500 is the Microsoft Azure Security Engineer Associate certification. It is designed for IT professionals who want to specialize in securing Azure cloud environment, whether it is identity, access, networking, data, or monitoring. Now, you don't need to be a cybersecurity expert to start this course. If you are familiar with the basic cloud structure or IT concepts, you will be able to follow along. And by the end of this series, you will have a strong foundation to move into more advanced topics or take the full certification exam. Now, before we dive deeper, it is important to understand the shared responsibility model here. Well, this explains that which part of security Microsoft handles and which part you are responsible to handle as a customer. So here's the idea. Microsoft is responsible for the security of the cloud infrastructure itself. Things like the physical data center, servers inside it, networking, which is in the data center. I'm not talking about virtual network right now, the real physical network in data center. And also the Azure infrastructure itself. It's Microsoft's responsibility. You, on the other hand, are responsible for what you put in the cloud, such as your configuration of virtual machine, setting up user access, and protecting your data. That is your responsibility. Well, this model is the foundation of cloud security. Knowing where your responsibility starts help you focus your efforts in the right place. Now, you might hear about Azure Security Center. Well, that was the old name. But now, the new name is changed to Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So, Defender for Cloud is Azure's built-in tool for managing your overall security posture. It gives you visibility into your environment. It highlights vulnerabilities and offers security recommendation as well as a score. And if you enable Defender plans, you get advanced threat protection for your virtual machines, containers, SQL database, and more services. Think of it as your security control tower, which is constantly analyzing your environment and helping you take proper and prompt actions. Now, at the heart of Azure identity is something called Microsoft Entra ID. This is used to be called Azure Active Directory, but they changed the name from Azure Active Directory to Entra ID. So what is it? Well, Microsoft Entra ID is how Azure handles identity and access. In simple word, Microsoft Entra ID is IAM, Identity and Access Management Solution. It controls who can sign in, what they can access, and under what conditions. Whether you are logging into a virtual machine, accessing an application, or using a command line tool, Entra ID is managing that authentication behind the scenes. It supports the single sign-on. It also offers access control, device management, and more. And it is the core service that security engineers will work with every day. So make sure that you are pretty familiar with your Defender for Cloud as well as Entra ID. And now we can talk about some services such as identity protection and conditional access. These two key security features are built into your Entra ID, but you may need to get the proper license for that. These are not free features. Here, identity protection uses machine learning to detect risky sign-ins, like logging from unfamiliar location, infected devices, or impossible travel situation when you are using VPNs to hop from one place to other in seconds. Here, when a risk is detected by Microsoft, you can take actions on it. On the other hand, conditional access lets you define policy that control access based on certain conditions, like requiring multi-factor authentication if someone is signing in from outside the corporate network, or blocking access entirely from a certain countries. Or together, you can use both identity protection and conditional access to help you balance security with productivity, allowing good user quality of service, QoS, while keeping the threats out. And now we can talk about MFA. Well, what is MFA? It stands for multi-factor authentication. This one is the simplest and most powerful way to protect your account. Here, MFA adds an extra step to login process, which is something you have, like a phone or an application in which you will get the code, and with the help of that code, you can get into your environment. Well, in Entra ID, MFA can be enforced with conditional access policies, or it might be required for all the users by default. Now, also make sure when you enable MFA, your users first register themselves. They may have to provide phone numbers, or they may have to register their authenticator app, which is in their phone. They scan a QR code, and everything is done automatically. Now, it's one of the first things every organization should turn on. And now even the Microsoft Azure makes it kind of a compulsion for every organization to enable MFA. Now let's go to the portal itself and check out some of the services we discussed.
All right, now let's check out the Entra ID and how we can configure conditional access, MFA, and identity protection for a user. Now in this case, I will have only one test user and apply all the access policies on that particular test user. Now before I go to my Azure portal, let me show you that you can go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center and still manage your Entra ID configuration. Here you can create your users, you can check out your devices, you can also change device enrollment settings, you can manage your licenses, bill and payment, and so much more. Now, if you create user here, well, the same user will also show up in Azure Entra ID. So the point is, the Azure Entra ID service is actually providing identity and access management solution for multiple multiple Microsoft Cloud services. So if you go to M365 Admin Center, again, the users and your IAM solution is provided by Entra. If you go to Azure, the IAM service is provided by, again, Entra. Or if you go directly to Entra ID, well, again, you can configure the same stuff in Microsoft Entra Admin Center. Just one more example, you can also go to, let's say, Intune. Well, Intune also have integration of Entra ID, as you can see, user groups and tenant administration. So you can create your users here, groups, and also change some tenant configuration. So there are multiple services all integrated with Entra ID. So before I create a user and assign license, let me show you from where I bought the license or purchased it. Well, if you go to M365 Admin Center, you will go to Billing and click on Your Products. Then you can click on Add More Products, and it will take you to Microsoft Marketplace, from where you can pick and choose which product you want or which license you need. Now, it all depends on your company scenario, because licenses do come in bundles. So sometimes you get a really good deal if you purchase a particular license, and in that license you have multiple services included. But Microsoft did a good job with these categories. So if you click on, let's say, M365, here you will get all the licenses in this category. And if you click on Detail, well, here you can see what's included and what will be the cost. Plus, if you go with a 3-year subscription length, you will get heavy discounts. So it all depends what you want. Okay, so once you get your license, then you go to your licenses, all right? And then you select a license and assign it to your target user or user groups. Well, in my case, I will assign M365 Business Premium as well as Entra ID P2 license to my test user. Business Premium for giving access to all the 365 services. That includes Team, Outlook, and so on. But if you want to apply your premium security services or security over that test account, well, for that you need at least P1 or P2 account. If you have Entra free subscription, conditional access, privileged identity management, and any other premium security service will not work. So let me do that. You click on your license and click on Assign License. Then search for that team member. So for me, it will be Test User, and click on Assign. Let's go back and assign 365 as well. I might need it for future demos. So I will select this, Test User, and assign. Perfect. Okay. Now, even if you go to Entra and scroll down to Licenses, then go to All Products, you will see both licenses here. But there is actually this warning sign. Adding, removing, or doing any other configuration with license is only allowed in M365 Admin Center. So Microsoft moved this functionality to M365 Admin Center completely. In the past, you were actually allowed to tweak or configure your licenses over here as well. Okay, so let's go to User. And as you can see, I'm now in Azure portal. Test User, and if you click on License, license will show up here. Same thing in Intune as well. Entirely different product. But if I go to Test User and then click on Licenses, here you go. So this proves that there are multiple services, but they're all integrated with Entra ID. So there is only one Entra ID on top. Okay, let me now close this Intune and other portals. I will just keep Azure and 365 Admin Center open. Now, how will you protect your environment? Basically, your user accounts. So if you go to Entra ID, under Manage, scroll all the way down, and you will see this tab called Security. This is where you get your advanced security services. Whether you want to go for your Defender for Cloud, Entra ID protection, conditional access, you name it. So if I go to Protect, here you will find identity protection as well as your conditional access. Now, if you don't have a valid Entra ID license, some of the premium feature will not work. So let's click on identity protection. Now, this is your dashboard where you can get a brief description, a layout of how many numbers of attack you blocked in the past 12 months. So you can get a good monitoring dashboard here. All right, let's go to now Protect. And you have your user risk policy and sign-in risk policy as well as multi-factor authentication registration policy. So let's click on risk policy. So as you can see, we can now configure risk policy over here, but Microsoft wants you to start using conditional access because they integrated risk policy and sign-in risk policy with conditional access. Although you can still manage them separately if you want. Now let's go to conditional access. This is where we will create another policy and test it. Now, don't worry about these policies. These are all off right now. They were just created for testing purposes. But if you want to create your own policy, you will click on Add New Policy here. And let's call it Demo Policy. And then the next thing you will do is select users on which this policy will be applied. Now, make sure not to select all user here, because if you don't meet the condition, you will lock yourself out. So I will only select the test user here. So click on users and group and select test user. I don't have a group for this user, so I will just select one user here. Let's say you want to exclude just few users and want to include everyone else. Then you will click on all user and then make sure you exclude those few users on which you don't want to enforce policy. Okay, so my user is selected. Now you will select the target resource. This means whenever this user tries to connect with this target resource, the conditional policy will run and your access will be evaluated at that time. Now, again, if you select all resources, well, you will lock down that user from accessing anything provided by Microsoft Cloud environment. But I don't want to do that. I want to select only one service, let's say, for testing purposes. So I will select resource and let's select it. And how about Office 365? So this user can access, let's say, Intune, Azure, any other service, but not Office 365, at least not without actually meeting the conditions. So I will select that. Done. Now you can also, this is a new setting, you can also create safe networks or safe network boundary, which means that you can configure a network boundary with the help of subnets or IP address range. And if the user access the environment from that specific network, then the access will be granted without even evaluating the conditions. If the user goes outside the safe network, then the conditional access policy will kick in. Okay. Now, this is the main part where you actually add conditions. And as you can see, user risk and sign-in risk both are here. So you can configure it from here as well. So if you click on user risk, you can configure it. And then you can select the severity, or you can say how sensitive it might be. Now, How do you think user risk is evaluated? Well, you don't evaluate this. Microsoft Azure have its own machine learning to evaluate user risk and sign-in risk. You just pick and choose the sensitive nature of it. Same goes for sign-in risk as well. And then we have insider risk, which comes within your environment. And these are your old conditions, which were already there for a very long time. So let's do this. So I will select a platform. Yes. And I will say only Windows is allowed. Okay, I will select Windows. Okay. Location, I don't want to set because I don't have a safe network configured yet. So I will go for client apps. And I will only select browsers. So it will take effect on browser and done. And that's it. Now, the next step is the access control. This is where you decide, do you want to block access or do you want to grant access, but with a condition? So if you want to grant access and apply MFA, in that case, the user have to provide a second factor for authentication. But in my demo, I will click on block access so that I can show you the difference. Now, do you want to activate this policy? Well, yes, I want to, but you can also keep it disabled. Maybe you want to keep it saved and use it in the future. Or you can also click on report only if you want to audit your environment, that who is actually following the condition and who's not. Now I will enable it, click on create. All right, so the conditional policy is now created. Now let's test it. So I have this sandbox environment, and in that I will sign in with my test user account. First, I will sign into my Azure portal. Okay, portal.azure, and I'm using my test account, as you can see, test user, and I'm able to sign in. Now, what about my 365 environment? Let's try that. We can go to M365 Admin Center, and I'm already signed in. So if I click on this, it will open a new tab and will try to authenticate me automatically because the token is already saved on this browser instance. So let's see if I can sign in. As you can see, you cannot access this right now because of that conditional access policy. How about some other tool or service? How about Intune? Well, I can sign in. It works. So this is how conditional access policy create a security layer on top of your Azure cloud environment. It can enhance your security posture. Let's go back. And this time, we will, modify the conditional access policy. So let's go to conditional access policy and search for your policy, the one you created, demo policy. Click on it. And over here, again, as you can see, you can modify it and save it. And let's go to target resources. And then let's remove this Office 365. And whenever you make a change, you have to save it. Oh, there's no target resource. So I will say none. So basically, I don't have any target resources. But the conditional access policy is still active. I know it is now incomplete because if there is no target, that means this condition policy will not actually work properly. So let's go and check it out. So if I go to 365 again from my account, let's see if I get the access or not. Okay, it's still taking time. Refresh it and then connect back. Oh, wait. Yes, so it is working. I don't have access on this account because the permissions are not there, but I am in Microsoft Admin Center. So I can access M365 now. Let's try to open an application inside it because I do have the license at least. So I'll go to myapps.soft.com, let's say. I'm trying to sign in, and here we go. So I am signed in as test user, and I do have access now. So conditional access policy is lifted. It's not disabled, but it's not working because there is no target behind it. So how to remove it? Go back to your policy and you can simply delete it. And it's gone. So this is how easy it is to apply conditional access policy. But remember, configuring it is easy. But if you don't know what you're doing, you can end up locking everyone in your environment out. And then you might get a lot of calls and tickets. So you have to be very careful when you are applying conditional access policy over your environment, especially in live production environment. And now quickly see the MFA. So to apply MFA for the user, you will just go to Entra ID and click on users. Then on top, you will click on these three dots for your menu and you will see per user MFA. This will take you to this page. Here you can find that user, select that user, and then click on Enable MFA. This will enable the multi-factor authentication and this user have to go through it. Now, whenever the user first connects with the Azure cloud environment, if the MFA is enabled, the user will be asked to register. Registration simply means to provide a phone number or register the Azure Authenticator app or Microsoft Authenticator app on the phone. Plus, you can also go from here. If you go to security, and remember there was something called MFA here, multi-factor authentication, under manage. You click on it, and then you can click on configure, additional cloud-based multi-factor authentication settings, and it will take you to the same page. Select the user, enable MFA.
So to wrap up this module, here's what we covered. We covered what is AZ-500, that is Azure Security Engineer Associate Certificate, and we also discussed the shared responsibility model and why it matters. We also touched on Microsoft Defender for Cloud and your Entra ID. Plus, we also discussed some of the crucial security-oriented services offered by Entra ID. That is your identity protection, conditional access, MFA. And remember, there are many more identity protection services. Well, in the next module, we will take a closer look at how to manage identities and access in Azure, including roles, permission, and how to control who can do what inside your environment. So don't miss it. Well, if you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any question, drop it in the comment section. I will see you in the next lesson. Until then, take care.
Thank you for watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. info@netsoftacademy.com. www.netsoftacademy.com.